You could feel the shift in the studio almost instantly. It wasn't just a slight pause or a momentary hitch in the teleprompter. It was the exact second the professional armor fell away entirely. For years, daytime television has relied on a certain level of composed reassurance. We turn on our screens, expect a familiar smile, and trust that no matter how difficult the headlines are, the people delivering them will hold the line. But when Ben Shepherd stood before the cameras and faced a piece of devastating cancer news that hit far too close to home, that unspoken contract between presenter and audience dissolved. It was a raw, unfiltered reminder of the human cost behind the headlines, and viewers at home were left completely spellbound by the sheer vulnerability unfolding live on air. Ben has always been seen as the anchor, the steady hand, the broadcaster who can navigate the most turbulent media storms with a sense of calm professionalism. When news concerning a deeply personal battle or a devastating health update is brought into the studio, the atmosphere changes in a way that production crews can never fully prepare for. Many viewers notice the precise moment his voice caught, a subtle, heartbreaking fracture in his usual flawless delivery. It wasn't scripted, and it certainly wasn't rehearsed. You cannot fake the sudden pooling of emotion in a person's eyes or the way they instinctively clear their throat to keep from breaking down completely. It almost felt as though the weight of the entire country's collective anxiety about health, loss, and the cruelty of illness was resting squarely on his shoulders in that single, agonizing minute. What shocked fans wasn't just the visible crack in his composure, but the candid confession that followed. In a rare departure from the rigid impartiality of traditional news broadcasting, there was an authentic admission of just how deeply this news hit. It wasn't just another segment to get through before the commercial break. Some people watching interpreted the moment as a profound release of pent-up emotion, perhaps reflecting the heavy toll that covering tragic stories day after day takes on a broadcaster. When a presenter openly admits their own fear, their own heartbreak, or their own personal connection to a disease that touches almost every family in Britain, it changes the entire dynamic of the room. The studio went incredibly quiet. The usual rustle of scripts and the distant hum of the gallery seemed to vanish, replaced by a heavy, palpable silence that spoke louder than any prepared statement ever could. The interview and the subsequent discussion seemed to hint at something much deeper than a simple news report. The camera angles themselves seemed to capture the tension, lingering just a second longer on the tight, strained expressions of everyone in the room. In live television, every second is calculated, but in moments like this, the clock seems to stop entirely. Viewers online began wondering whether the emotional weight had simply become too much to bear, sparking a massive wave of empathy across social media. It was a stark departure from the usual fast-paced nature of breakfast news, where we are swiftly ushered from one tragedy to a light-hearted entertainment segment. Instead, the production team allowed the moment to breathe, giving the audience permission to feel the gravity of the situation right alongside the presenter. There is something unique about British breakfast television and our relationship with the people who host it. We invite them into our kitchens and living rooms during our most vulnerable hours, when we are waking up, preparing for the day, and trying to make sense of the world. Because of that, a breakdown like this feels deeply personal to the viewer. It doesn't feel like watching a distant news anchor on a global network. It feels like watching someone you know receive devastating news in real time. The public conversation that followed wasn't focused on sensationalism, but rather on a shared sense of profound respect for the honesty displayed on screen. It forced us to confront the reality that those who bring us the news are not immune to the pain contained within it. If you look closely at the body language during that broadcast, the subtle shifts tell the real story. The way his hands tightly gripped the edge of the desk, the brief moments of looking down to avoid eye contact with the camera, the sudden drop in vocal register, these are the universal signs of someone fighting a losing battle against their own composure. And yet, it was precisely that struggle that made the moment so profoundly moving for the audience. It showed a national viewership that it is entirely acceptable to be overwhelmed, that even those tasked with guiding us through the news are fighting their own quiet battles and feeling the exact same pain we do. The reaction from fans was immediate, filled with a collective outpouring of support that highlighted just how much people value genuine human emotion over polished, robotic perfection. While nothing has been confirmed about the exact personal thoughts running through his mind at that moment, it's hard to say for certain how much of it was tied to past losses or the simple, overwhelming empathy for the families affected by the news being shared. What we do know is that it struck a chord that resonated long after the credits rolled. Television often tries to manufacture emotion for ratings, but you cannot manufacture a moment where a seasoned professional is stripped back to their bare humanity. It reminds us that behind the bright studio lights, the makeup, and the teleprompters, there are real people experiencing real grief. Perhaps what stayed with viewers wasn't only what was said during those raw minutes, but everything left unsaid in the heavy silences between words. It makes you realize that the connection between a presenter and their audience is far deeper than we often acknowledge. What did you notice while watching this unfold? Did it feel like a turning point in how we view the people on our screens? Or did you see a deeper, more personal pain happening in that studio?